Today we're going to be making carne con papas, or beef with potatoes. First, we're going to start off by making the red sauce. This is a dried ancho chile, so I'm just going to remove the stems and add it to a pot. And then I have about 4 guajillo chiles. You can also use California chiles. Same thing, just remove the stems. Don't worry about the seeds. We're going to strain the sauce. So add some water, bring that to a boil so they soften. Transfer the rehydrated chiles to a blender. We don't want any of the water because that can make it a little bit bitter. Then I'm going to add 2 whole garlic cloves and half a cup of clean water to the blender. Blend that until everything's nice and broken down, and then we're going to go ahead and pour it through a fine mesh strainer. I did want it to get all that sauce, so I added a little bit more water to the blender to get it all out. Just use a spatula and kind of press the sauce through the strainer, and then you're kind of left with the pulp and seeds. Add it back to a blender, and then I forgot to show it, but I have a Roma tomato in the blender along with some chicken bouillon. You can either use the powder or the paste like I have here, and then we're going to go ahead and give that a blend until it's incorporated. Set that aside, and then I'm adding some 2 bay leaves for some extra flavor. For the carne part, or the beef part, you can either use flank steak, or this is beef loin flap meat. That's how it was labeled at my store. I'm just cutting it into about 2-inch sections here. And then once you have all of your meat sectioned off, then I'm going to cut them into thin strips. So here I'm cutting it against the grain to ensure that the meat is nice and tender when you bite into it. When you cut it with the grain, then it's going to end up a lot more chewier. So this piece of meat was about 2 pounds, and this made enough for 8 servings. Once all the meat is sliced up, go ahead and set it aside to a bowl. I like to put a paper towel, wet paper towel, under my cutting board to prevent it from wobbling. But don't worry, I also washed my hands. So now I have 2 russet potatoes that I've already peeled, and then I'm just going to slice them into coins. This is how my mother-in-law makes it, but you can also slice the coins into like halves, so like half moons, so they're not as big. But the potatoes will kind of break down as they cook and it gets stirred around with the dish. So go ahead and slice all the potatoes, set them aside, and now we are ready to start cooking. I have a large skillet here that I'm just adding a little bit of oil in the steak that I just cut. There's no seasoning here. I am going to cook it for a little bit and season it with a little bit of black pepper, but you want to keep cooking the meat until all of the liquid is absorbed. Here in a minute that there's quite a bit of liquid that comes out from the meat, so just keep cooking it. I have my heat on about medium, and this usually takes about 15 minutes. So you can see here, most of the liquid has absorbed. The fat is kind of crackling in the skillet, and that right there is perfect. So now I'm going to add the blended red sauce along with the bay leaves, and you want this to be a saucy dish, so I'm adding a little bit more water. You can adjust the seasoning later to add more salt, but you want to make sure there's enough liquid so that way the potatoes can cook. And actually, after I added the potatoes, I did add a little bit more water as well. So I'm just layering the potatoes, and then I am going to stir it to combine it so that way they can cook more evenly. So just stir like every 5 minutes, and this process does take about 15 to 20 minutes. I tasted it, it did need some salt, so I'm seasoning it with salt right here. Even though the sauce is red, it's not a spicy dish. My kids actually enjoy eating it. I prefer it with a little bit of chile de árbol salsa just to give it a little bit of kick. It goes so well with rice and beans. You can either do arroz rojo or arroz primavera. And this carne con papas actually reheats really well, so you can have it throughout the week. And it's so hearty, so comforting. I really hope you give it a try. Leave me any questions or comments that you have below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.